Which Jedi Master was closer to the dark side of the Force than meets the eye? Even the most expansive franchises have great characters who never get the chance to shine on their own, but these Star Wars favorites deserve more screen time. R2-D2 and C-3PO are the first characters that the audience got acquainted with during 1977's Star Wars premiere, and they've been fan favorites ever since. Both of them are loosely based on the pair of bickering peasants in Akira Kurosawa's Hidden Fortress, and they've brought both unbridled heroism and comedic relief to the Star Wars universe throughout its entire run. What is there not to love about the beeping astromech droid, R2-D2? Famously played by the late Kenny Baker, he's the best pal a Jedi can ask for, and he's handy in a crisis. His partner, protocol droid C-3PO, played by Anthony Daniels, is the more comedic of the pair. Poor C-3PO is the butt of running gags, getting disassembled and reassembled repeatedly and enduring memory wipes. But even when facing sticky situations that are well beyond his programming, C-3PO never loses his graciousness.
I am C-3PO human-cyborg relations. And you are?
R2-D2 and C-3PO are the only characters to appear in all 9 main series films. They even had their own TV show, the 80s animated series Droids, and could easily carry their own buddy comedy feature film if Lucasfilm ever gave it a chance. Voiced by Tia Sircar, this young and colorful Mandalorian loves to stick it to the Empire in the Rebels cartoon. Enjoying a sisterly relationship with the Jedi in training, Ezra Bridger, Sabine has a dark past in which she created weapons for the Empire. She eventually broke free and, to atone for her wrongdoing, became part of the Ghost's crew. Sabine's art emerges as a spiritual force throughout Rebels. Although Sabine doesn't interact with the legendary Grand Admiral Thrawn, the manner in which he treats art makes Sabine one of his biggest foils. Grand Admiral Thrawn steals art from its creators and uses it as a tool of oppression. Sabine's art champions her culture, intimacy, and her belief in a higher cause. In the Rebels ending, it's her art that immortalizes her found family long after the Ghost crew parts ways. Sabine was also the center of one of the greatest Rebels episodes, Trials of the Darksaber. This installment played out a deconstruction of the Chosen One narrative. In it, Sabine has to decide if she wants to wield the Darksaber and rule Mandalore. Remarkably, Sabine is given the option to say no. In a fantasy story like Star Wars, it's rare and refreshing to see a young girl who's allowed to lay down a burden of this magnitude with the blessing of her family. At first glance, Neeku Vozo, a benign green Nikto, is kid-friendly comic relief like Jar Jar Binks. When he's introduced in Star Wars Resistance, one of the more light-hearted Star Wars cartoons, he gets Resistance lead Kazuto Xiono into a bind. But soon, Neeku proves to be an invaluable friend to those on the Colossus. Living among the Colossus residents, Neeku is a beacon of compassion. When he notices that Kaz is in financial trouble, he buys water for his pal, and later purchases medicine for refugee children. He's kooky but generous, and his trusting nature is exactly what makes him formidable in this dark galaxy. He knows that the little things matter and validates everyone's needs. When the Colossus goes on the run from the First Order, Neeku performs his greatest deed. He constructs a holographic sky from spare parts so that the homesick Colossus civilians will feel at home. X-Wing pilots like Luke Skywalker and Poe Dameron, who shoot at the Empire, are easy to identify as heroes. Neeku, on the other hand, flies under the radar, putting the needs of his community ahead of himself, making him a hero in our book. Like C-3PO and R2-D2, separating this duo would not do either justice. Played by Donnie Yen and Zhang Wen, Chirrut and Baze are the Jedi-human duo introduced in Rogue One, who became irreplaceable allies to Jyn Erso, Cassian Andor, and the Rebellion. In the live-action movies, Chirrut introduced us to another religious order, the Guardians of the Whills, that followed the principles of the light side. No, Chirrut is not a Jedi, and yet the Force very much flows through his essence and virtues. It guides him and his deadly combat stick through his blindness, allowing him coordination and skill in battle. Baze is as cynical as Chirrut is spiritual, but they are thick as thieves and good friends despite their different outlooks. Baze loves teasing Chirrut about his spiritualism, but he and his repeating canon are always there to help Chirrut in a pinch. As much as the war-hardened Baze rejects the Force, the deeper you get into Rogue One, the more evident it becomes that Baze keeps Chirrut around because he hopes that Chirrut's optimism will rub off on him.
He's praying for the door to open.
It bothers him because he knows it's possible.
Lando is a lovable, smooth-talking scoundrel, first portrayed by Billy D. Williams. Introduced in The Empire Strikes Back, he's both buddy and rival to Han Solo, and the former owner of the Millennium Falcon. Unlike Han, Lando commits a massive betrayal, but he does have a conscience. Lando sells out our heroes to Darth Vader, but not without guilt. To his credit, he was protecting Cloud City from Imperial control. In a reprint of Marvel's The Empire Strikes Back adaptation, Williams writes, "He was dealing as best he could with the situation that was presented to him by the Empire upon their arrival. Like Han, Lando becomes an active rebel general in the battle against the second Death Star, looking awesome while he's at it. In The Rise of Skywalker, Lando has matured into an old general, a shadow of his once cocky self, who drops sage advice and is more than happy to pass the mantle to a younger generation. Fans also get to see him in his mischievous youth, with Donald Glover's appearance as young Lando being a highlight of Solo, a Star Wars story."
I hate you.
Played by Veronica No, Paige Tico is introduced just minutes before she is killed off. Despite her fleeting appearance, Paige's impact on The Last Jedi cannot be overstated. On the surface, Paige's purpose is to release the bombs that destroy a First Order dreadnought. When she's slammed below deck, she furiously begins kicking a ladder to get the control to release the bombs to fall into her hands. After catching the falling controller and successfully releasing the bombs, she shuts her eyes and grabs her crescent moon necklace. As fire swallows her surroundings, she dies knowing that she saved the mission. While Paige is lost, her legacy is carried on by her sister Rose, portrayed by Kelly Marie Tran. Rose bears the same necklace, and shots of the jewelry denote moments when Paige's memory inspires Rose to do the right thing, even if it means sacrificing herself. It would be easy to dismiss Paige as a plot device to motivate Rose, but Last Jedi director Rian Johnson understood that it was important to witness her terror, her determination, her resolve, and her peace. In that way, the audience honors the anonymous people who exist in the margins of the Skywalker saga. Paige's lines are little more than grunts, yet her expressions, actions, and spirit echo across the cosmos. BB-8 is an astrodroid like R2-D2, but compressed into a sphere that rolls. When he debuted in the Force Awakens trailer, the mere sight of BB-8 excited viewers young and old. Like the droid that came before him, BB-8 achieves his goals no matter what. With such determination, it's no wonder that his owner, Poe Dameron, likes him so much. BB-8 also has a knack for forging bonds with both droids and other humans, and even keeps Finn's secret with a cute, mimetic thumbs up. Thanks to the handicraft of babe creature designer Neil Scanlon and puppeteers like Dave Chapman and Brian Herring, this roly-poly droid really feels like he's alive. That extends off-screen too. BB-8 isn't CGI. He's a realistic, practical effect that shows up at conventions, inciting some whoops and hollers at the 2015 Star Wars celebration in Anaheim. Voiced by Vanessa Marshall, Hera Syndulla is the mom to the Ghost crew in Star Wars Rebels. A green Twi'lek pilot, Hera is the heart of the cast, passing advice and encouragement to her crew. While Kanan usually leads the on-field missions and Hera provides the getaway rides, she knows how to take charge when necessary. If it wasn't for Hera, Kanan would not have rediscovered his Jedi purpose, as seen in John Jackson Miller's novel, A New Dawn. By the time that Hera welcomes Ezra into her crew, he's impressed with how she's knitted together a family. In The Bad Batch, we glimpse how her childhood was forged by war on planet Ryloth. Her appearance in that series lets the audience see how a young soul, someone who is not a soldier, is affected by the Empire's rule. After the events of Rebels, Hera's battle continued in the Alphabet Squadron books and the Dr. Aphra comics. Born in the slums of Corellia, Qi'ra is depicted as Han Solo's love interest in the movie Solo. As played by Game of Thrones star Emilia Clarke, Qi'ra almost seems like she knows the role she's supposed to play in his story, and takes years to break out. Even in the beginning, melancholy haunts her bubbly smiles. When Qi'ra is ripped away from Han, she begins her own journey, and by the time they reunite, she's unable to tell him how far she has fallen. She senses that Han has a different purpose, and knows that her place is among seedy criminals, especially Maul, the leader of the Crimson Dawn. Plenty of fans want to see the guileful Qi'ra commit more crimes. She hasn't appeared in any on-screen Star Wars stories since Solo, aside from an animated Forces of Destiny short. However, she plays a big role in the comics. Clarke is game to reprise the character when the time comes. While there are no guarantees of her role reprise yet, she is signed up for multiple Star Wars movies. If C-3PO is a nuisance who tries too hard to be polite, K-2SO is your insensitive buddy who's happy tossing around insults and thwacking a stormtrooper's skull. An Imperial droid reprogrammed to serve Rebel spy Cassian Andor, he offers just as much snark as he does help. Played on set and voiced by Firefly star Alan Tudyk, K-2SO is a scene stealer whose quotable quips add levity to one of the grimmer Star Wars movies.
Jin, I'll be there for you. Cassian said I had to.
Armed with a blaster, K2SO also proves a formidable threat in combat. Like the entire cast of Rogue One, K2SO's sacrifice motivates Jyn and Cassian to find Plan Stardust, and his actions ensure that Luke Skywalker will destroy the Death Star in A New Hope. Fans waiting for the Andor spin-off series on Disney Plus will be pleased to hear that Tudyk may be reprising his role as the cranky bot. That means fans will get plenty more of this snarky droid, and maybe even a glimpse into how Cassian keeps him under control. With a profile inspired by Albert Einstein, this crinkly, wrinkled puppet was operated and voiced by a legendary Muppeteer, Frank Oz, who was recommended by puppet pioneer Jim Henson himself. And yet, Yoda is so much more than cloth, hands, and wire. Oz breathes life into the 9 centuries-old Yoda, making an instant impression in The Empire Strikes Back. The puppet forged a remarkable connection with Mark Hamill's character, as well as the audience. Yoda's a tricky, croaky fellow with a mysterious aura. He's as mischievous as a Muppet, and as wise as a Yogi Master, and his pearls of wisdom remain quotable to this day. Yoda's CGI iteration, who was voiced in The Clone Wars by Tom Kane, shows that the Green Sage is not immune to the dark side, exhibited when he has his own Dagobah cave moment and confronts his darker self. However, while Yoda acknowledges his capacity to fall, he remains in control of his worst impulses. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more SlashFilm videos about your favorite TV shows and movies are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.